life is not meant to be an endless loop of suffering, yet so many wake up each day, dragging the weight of yesterday, carrying the pain of what was and fearing what will be. They open their eyes, but they do not wake up. They move, but they do not live. Something inside them whispers, "This is not it. This is not how it's supposed to be," but they silence that voice. They distract themselves, they keep going, hoping that someday, somehow, things will change. But what if I told you, this moment, right now, is that change? Not tomorrow, not next year, not when you finally have enough money or love or recognition. Now, this moment, because waking up from an unhappy life doesn't start with the world changing. It starts with you realizing that the world was never the problem. There was once a man who lost everything. His business failed, his marriage crumbled, his friends disappeared. He sat alone in his tiny apartment, drowning in his own despair. Every night he would fall asleep, wishing he wouldn't wake up. And every morning he would wake up with the same heaviness, until one day something broke inside him. Not in a painful way, but in a freeing way. He looked around and saw that nothing outside him had changed, but something inside him had changed, but something inside him had changed. And then something inside him had changed, but 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 something inside him had changed. For the first time, he realized the suffering was never in the circumstances. The suffering was in my mind, in the story I kept telling myself. You are not unhappy because life is hard. You are unhappy because you are identified with thoughts that tell you life is hard. You are unhappy because you believe the voice in your head that says you are stuck. But are you really? Right now, if you close your eyes and let go of every thought about what has happened, every thought about what will happen, who are you? Where is the suffering? It does not exist in the now. It only exists in the resistance to the now. Some people say, I will be happy when I find the right person, when I have more money, when my past no longer haunts me. But that day never comes, because happiness does not exist in the future. The future is just a projection of the mind. It is always almost there, but never here. And unless you choose to be free now, you will never be free. Do you want to know the real secret? The moment you stop fighting life, life stops fighting you. Imagine someone drowning, flailing their arms, resisting the current. The more they fight, the deeper they sink. But the moment they let go, they float. The struggle was never against the water. The struggle was against their own resistance. So today, just for a moment, stop running, stop chasing, stop believing the thought that says something is missing, because right now, in this moment, you have everything you need to be free. No more waiting, no more postponing life for a future that never arrives. Wake up. Wake up to the reality that joy was never outside of you. It was only hidden beneath the noise of your own mind. And when you wake up, when you truly wake up, You will see the world differently, not because the world changed, but because you did. Suffering is not in life itself, but in the mind's interpretation of life. Two people can experience the same situation, yet one will crumble while the other remains at peace. Why? Because suffering is not about what happens. It is about the meaning the mind attaches to what happens. The event is neutral. The interpretation is what creates pain. Imagine a man who loses his job. One version of him spirals into despair, believing he is a failure, that life is against him, that his future is ruined. Another version of him, experiencing the same job loss, sees an opportunity. Perhaps this is a push he needed to finally pursue something he truly loves. The situation is the same. The suffering, or lack of it, exists only in the mind's narrative. The mind constantly tells stories. Some are empowering, others are destructive. A person who has been abandoned may carry the belief, I am unlovable. But is that true? Or is it just a thought the mind has repeated so often that it feels like truth? If another person experiences abandonment yet believes, this was their loss, I will find someone who truly values me, their reality is entirely different. The past event remains unchanged, but the emotional weight is shaped by perception. A prisoner locked in a cell may experience more freedom than a billionaire drowning in anxiety. The prisoner, if he surrenders to the present, accepting what is, may find an inner peace that no external condition can shake. The billionaire, despite material abundance, may be consumed by fear of loss, by never-ending desires, by the inability to be present. Their suffering is not in their circumstances, but in their thoughts. People assume that changing their life circumstances will bring happiness, but the truth is, even in the best situations, an untrained mind will find something to suffer over. A person wins the lottery and soon worries about managing their wealth. Someone finds love and begins fearing its loss. If suffering were in external conditions, then wealth, love, or success would automatically bring peace. Yet, time and again, we see that it does not. To break free, one must recognize this simple truth. The mind generates suffering, not life. And the moment you see that, you are no longer its prisoner. Happiness is not something that exists in the future. It is not something you will find when you achieve your goals, solve your problems, or become the person you think you need to be. It is always here, always available, but hidden beneath layers of thought, distraction, and the illusion of time. The mind constantly tells you that happiness is just beyond your reach, that once you have more money, the right relationship, or a better life situation, you will finally feel complete. But the moment you get what you once longed for, the mind moves the goalpost. It tells you that something else is missing, and so you chase and chase, never realizing that you are running toward a horizon that will never be reached. A man spends years working towards success, believing that once he reaches a certain level of wealth, he will finally feel secure. When he arrives, he finds that the anxiety remains. Now he fears losing what he has. Another person searches endlessly for love, believing that another human being will complete them. When they finally find the relationship they longed for, insecurity creeps in. The fear of abandonment, the realization that no one can fill the emptiness they have carried all. Happiness does not come from what is added to your life. It comes from recognizing what has always been here. Look at a child laughing in the present moment, completely absorbed in life. They do not need a reason to be happy, they simply are. They do not postpone joy until they have achieved something. They are not weighed down by the past or worried about the future. The difference between them and you is not in external circumstances, but in presence. The child has not yet been conditioned to believe that happiness is something to chase. They have not yet been trained by society to attach their sense of self to success, failure, or identity. They simply exist, and in that existence, they are free. Right now, if you stop for a moment, if you drop every thought about the future, every regret about the past, what remains? A stillness, a peace, a presence that has been waiting for you to notice it. This is where happiness has always been, not in tomorrow, not in someday, but here in this moment, where life is actually happening. Suffering does not come from life itself, but from resistance to life. The mind creates an image of how things should be, and when reality does not match that image, suffering arises. It is not the event itself that causes pain, but the refusal to accept what is. A person loses their job and resists it, fighting against reality, replaying the moment, obsessing over what went wrong. The job loss itself is one thing, but the mind's resistance turns it into prolonged. Another person in the same situation accepts what has happened, adapts, and moves forward without unnecessary mental anguish. The external event is the same, yet their experiences are entirely different. Right now, there is likely something in your life that you are resisting. Perhaps it is a painful memory, an unwanted change, or a fear of the unknown. But what if you let go? What if you stopped fighting against what is already happening? What if you allowed life to unfold without the constant mental struggle? In that surrender, there is not defeat, but freedom. Life was never the problem, only the mind's resistance to it. Your thoughts are not reality. They appear, they speak, they pull you into stories, but they are not the truth. The mind generates thoughts the way the sky produces clouds, constantly shifting, coming and going, changing shape. Yet most people live as if their thoughts are absolute, as if every fearful prediction, every painful memory, every self-critical voice is a reflection of reality. But if thoughts were always true, they would not contradict themselves. If thoughts were reality, you would not feel one way in the morning and another in the evening about the same situation. A person faces rejection and the mind whispers, "You are not good enough." They believe it. They carry that thought as if it were a fact. But another person faces the same rejection and thinks, "This is redirection, not failure. Something better awaits." The event is the same, but the experience is different. not because of the event itself, but because of the thought attached to it. This is the power of the mind. It creates suffering not through what happens, but through the meaning it assigns. The rejection was just an event. The suffering was optional. The problem is not that thoughts exist. The problem is identification with them. If a storm appears in the sky, you do not become the storm. You do not say, I am the rain, I am the thunder. You simply watch. Yet when a negative thought arises, you claim it as your own. I am unworthy. I am hopeless. I am stuck. But the truth is, these are just thoughts. They are not you. They are passing weather, nothing more. Imagine a person sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. Some leaves are beautiful, others are dark and withered. But the person does not jump in and chase them, they simply observe. This is how you must treat your thoughts. They come and go, but you do not have to chase them, fight them, or believe them. You are not the thinker, you are the observer. Right now, what thoughts are running through your mind? Are they telling you a story of fear, limitation, or regret? What if just for a moment you stepped back and simply noticed them without attachment? What if you realized that you are not the voice in your head, but the awareness that hears it? In that realization, there is freedom, because once you stop believing every thought, you stop being controlled by them. Freedom does not come from changing external circumstances. It does not come from finally getting what you think you need. It comes the moment you stop waiting for something outside of you to set you free. The mind always convinces you that once something changes, once you have more money, a better relationship, a different life situation, then you will finally be at peace. But the moment one problem is solved, another appears. The cycle never ends because the mind always finds something else to chase, something else to fix, something else to fear. If freedom depended on perfect circumstances, no one would ever be free. A person dreams of escaping their stressful job, believing that quitting will bring peace. But when they finally leave, a new anxiety arises. Uncertainty about the future, fear of financial instability. Another person believes that finding love will heal their loneliness. But when they enter a relationship, insecurity creeps in. The fear of losing it. The realization that no person can complete them. The suffering was never in the job or the loneliness. It was in the belief that something external held the key to peace. Real freedom happens when you stop looking outside for it. It happens when you realize that no situation, no person, no achievement will ever give you what you refuse to give yourself. There are people who have everything society tells us should bring happiness. Wealth, status, success, yet they feel empty. And there are people with nothing, living in the simplest conditions, who radiate peace. What is the difference? It is not in what they have, it is in how they perceive life. Imagine a bird sitting in an open cage, unaware that the door has always been open. It stays trapped, not because it is imprisoned, but because it believes it is. Most people live this way, thinking they are stuck, waiting for something to release them, when in reality the door has always been open. The only thing keeping them from freedom is the belief that they are not already free. The ego cannot survive in the present moment. It lives in the past and the future, feeding on memories, regrets, worries, and imagined scenarios. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of suffering by convincing you that your identity is built from past experiences and that your happiness depends on a future that has not yet arrived. The past defines you, the future promises relief, but neither exists anywhere except in your mind. Right now, in this very moment, without reference to past or future, where is the suffering? Without a story attached, is there any problem? A person carries the weight of old wounds, replaying painful memories, believing that what happened to them has shaped who they are. But the past is gone, except for the way the mind keeps it alive. Another person is consumed by anxiety, always thinking about what might go wrong, planning, controlling, trying to secure happiness somewhere ahead. But the future is just an idea, a projection of the mind. The only thing that is ever real is now. And in the now, there's peace. A tree does not regret last season's fallen leaves. A river does not worry about where it will flow next. Only the human mind clings to what no longer exists and fears what has not yet come. But when you bring your awareness fully to the present, all of that disappears. You realize that without past and future, there is nothing to fear. No burden remains, no suffering survives. Right now, if you drop every thought about yesterday and tomorrow, what is left? A deep stillness, a presence that has always been here, waiting for you to notice. This is freedom, and it has been here all along. Right now, what thoughts are running through your mind? Are they telling you a story of fear, limitation, or regret? What if just for a moment you stepped back and simply noticed them without attachment? What if you realized that you are not the voice in your head, but the awareness that hears it? In that realization, there is freedom, because once you stop believing every thought, you stop being controlled by them. Freedom does not come from changing external circumstances. It does not come from finally getting what you think you need. It comes the moment you stop waiting for something outside of you to set you free. The mind always convinces you that once something changes, once you have more money, a better relationship, a different life situation, then you will finally be at peace. But the moment one problem is solved, another appears. The cycle never ends because the mind always finds something else to chase, something else to fix, something else to fear. If freedom depended on perfect circumstances, no one would ever be free. A person dreams of escaping their stressful job, believing that quitting will bring peace. But when they finally leave, a new anxiety arises. Uncertainty about the future, fear of financial instability. Another person believes that finding love will heal their loneliness. But when they enter a relationship, insecurity creeps in. The fear of losing it, the realization that no person can complete them. The suffering was never in the job or the loneliness. It was in the belief that something external held the key to peace. Real freedom happens when you stop looking outside for it. It happens when you realize that no situation, no person, no achievement will ever give you what you refuse to give yourself. There are people who have everything society tells us should bring happiness: wealth, status, success, yet they feel empty. And there are people with nothing, living in the simplest conditions, who radiate peace. What is the difference? It is not in what they have, it is in how they perceive life. Imagine a bird sitting in an open cage, unaware that the door has always been open. It stays trapped, not because it is imprisoned, but because it believes it is. Most people live this way, thinking they are stuck, waiting for something to release them, when in reality the door has always been open. The only thing keeping them from freedom is the belief that they are not already free. Imagine walking through a beautiful garden while looking at your phone, lost in thought, unaware of the colors, the scents, the feeling of the sun on your skin. The beauty is there, but you do not experience it. This is how most people live, surrounded by life, but too consumed by the mind's distractions to see it. They are not suffering because life is empty. They are suffering because they are not present in life. But the moment you put the phone away, the moment you lift your head and see what has been in front of you all along, everything sharpens. The colors become vivid. The air feels fresh. The sounds come alive. The world has not changed. You have. Right now, life is happening. Every breath, every sound, every sensation is real. But the mind pulls you away, telling you stories of the past, inventing worries about the future. The moment you step out of that illusion and into the present, you are free. Nothing has to change. You only have to wake up, not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Because now is all there ever is. Waking up from an unhappy life is not about changing the external world, but about changing how you experience it. Suffering is not in life itself, but in the mind's resistance to it. The belief that happiness exists somewhere in the future is an illusion that keeps you trapped in endless seeking. True freedom comes when you stop waiting for circumstances to save you and realize that peace is already within you, buried beneath thought, fear, and false identity. The mind creates stories about who you are, what has happened, and what must happen for you to be whole. But these are just thoughts, passing like clouds in the sky. When you stop identifying with them, suffering loses its grip. The past no longer defines you, the future no longer controls you, and you wake up to the only thing that has ever been real, the present moment.